It was a calm Saturday morning when I decided to check on my rental property inside the Willow Creek HOA community. The place had been vacant for a month, and I wanted to make sure everything was still in order before the new tenants moved in. As usual, I parked near the curb, pulled out my clipboard, and started jotting down notes about some repairs. Out of nowhere, a white SUV with Willow Creek Security written on the side rolled up behind me. Two men stepped out wearing black polo shirts, dark sunglasses, and radios clipped to their belts. They looked more like wannabe cops than neighborhood watchmen. "Sir, this area is private property," one of them said, hands on his hips. "You can't just park here?" I looked at him calmly. "I own this house," I replied, gesturing toward the property. "I'm just doing a quick inspection." The second guard snorted. "We've had complaints about people snooping around. I'm going to need to see your ID." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean my driver's license?" "No," the first one said sharply. "Your HOA identification. If you're not a resident, we'll have to escort you out or detain you until the sheriff arrives." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Detain me? These guys thought they had police powers. Still, I kept my cool. "You might want to check your facts," I said. "I'm not some random trespasser." But they didn't listen. The second guard stepped closer, blocking my path. "Sir, hands where I can see them. This is your final warning." At that point, I noticed neighbors peeking from their windows, some even recording with their phones. Great. This was turning into a spectacle. "Listen," I said evenly. "You're about 2 seconds from making a serious mistake." He smirked. "What are you gonna do, call the cops?" I smiled slightly. "No need, I am the cops." They both froze for a second, confused. I reached into my jacket slowly and pulled out a black leather wallet. When I flipped it open, the silver badge and official State Highway Patrol ID glinted in the sunlight. The guards' confident expressions crumbled instantly. One of them muttered, "Oh, crap!" I closed the wallet with a snap. "Now," I said calmly, "why don't we talk about why two unlicensed security guards think they can arrest a state officer on his own property?" Both men exchanged terrified glances, and I knew this was just the beginning of a much bigger mess. The guards didn't know what to do. One of them stammered, Sir, we were just following orders." "Whose orders?" I asked firmly, arms crossed. "The HOA president's," he replied. "She told us to stop anyone who looked suspicious around vacant properties. Said she's tired of outsiders sneaking in." I shook my head in disbelief. "Outsiders? I own this house." Before they could respond, a white Lexus came screeching around the corner. Out stepped a woman in her 50s, wearing oversized sunglasses and clutching a clipboard. Her name tag read, Marjorie HOA, President. She stormed toward us with the fury of a general marching into battle. "What's going on here?" she demanded. "Did you stop him?" The guards hesitated, glancing nervously at me. Ma'am, turns out he's—" "I don't care what he is," she snapped, cutting them off. "If he's not a verified resident, he's trespassing. I want him removed now." I took a slow breath. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "you might want to lower your tone and ask who you're talking to before making demands." "Oh, I know exactly who I'm talking to," she said, wagging a finger at me. "Another arrogant man who thinks the rules don't apply to him. I don't care if you're a landlord, a realtor, or whoever. You can't just show up here unannounced." That's when I showed her the badge. I flipped it open again, letting the sunlight reflect off the polished metal. Her words stopped mid-sentence. "State Highway Patrol," I said clearly. "This ID gives me statewide jurisdiction, including right here." Marjorie's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The guards looked like they wanted to disappear into thin air. "Now," I continued, "I'd like to know why your security staff threatened to detain a state officer for standing on his own property." Her composure crumbled in an instant. "Officer, I didn't realize there's been so much crime lately. We were just trying to keep the neighborhood safe." "By violating property rights?" I asked sharply. "Do you understand how serious that could have been? Impersonating law enforcement, unlawful detainment, harassment, shall I go on?" She swallowed hard. "Please, there's no need for that. We can resolve this civilly." I studied her carefully. "You're right. We can, but first, I'm going to file an incident report with your HOA board and the county sheriff." Her face went pale. "The sheriff?" "Oh, absolutely," I said, turning toward my car. And I'll make sure the Department of Consumer Affairs knows your security team is playing police. Marjorie finally dropped her clipboard, realizing the situation had spiraled far beyond her control. By the time I finished calling dispatch, word had spread through the entire neighborhood. People were standing on lawns, whispering, pointing, and recording. The HOA president, Marjorie, was pacing nervously beside her Lexus, her confidence long gone. The two security guards stood frozen near their SUV, whispering to each other like kids waiting for detention. Within 15 minutes, a county sheriff's patrol truck rolled up. The deputy stepped out, a tall man with a calm but commanding presence. His badge caught the sunlight as he approached. "Morning, folks," he said evenly. "We got a report of a disturbance involving HOA security and a possible state officer?" "That would be me," I said, showing my credentials once more. "These gentlemen decided to threaten me with arrest on my own property." The deputy examined my badge, then turned toward Marjorie. "Ma'am, care to explain what's going on?" Marjorie's voice trembled. "Deputy, I thought he was trespassing. We've had suspicious people around lately, and I asked our security to, verify anyone who didn't look familiar." The deputy frowned. "Verify? They don't have that kind of authority, ma'am. HOA security can't detain or demand ID from property owners. That's not how this works." One of the guards tried to defend himself. "We were just doing our job, sir." "Your job," the deputy replied sharply. "That doesn't include pretending to be law enforcement. You threatened a state officer with arrest. That's impersonation, and it's a serious offense." The guards' faces turned ghost white. Marjorie stepped in quickly, desperate to regain control. "Deputy, please, let's not escalate things." "I'm sure we can—" The deputy held up a hand. "Ma'am, this is escalated. You authorized untrained security to act outside their authority, and you might have violated several laws in the process." I crossed my arms, silent but firm. Watching Marjorie squirm was almost uncomfortable, but I wanted her to understand the gravity of what she'd done. The deputy looked back at me. "You pressing charges?" I paused. Part of me wanted to make an example out of them, but another part knew it wasn't worth dragging through court. "Not yet," I said finally. "But I want a full written report, and I expect the HOA to issue an official apology." The deputy nodded. "Fair enough. I'll file the report and send copies to your department." Marjorie looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. "Officer, please." "Can we talk privately? I'll make this right." I gave her a long, cold look. "You'd better, because next time this doesn't end with a warning, it ends with handcuffs." The HOA board convened an emergency meeting that afternoon, and Marjorie invited me. Walking into the clubhouse felt strange. The same room where neighbors had laughed at bake sales now buzzed with nervous energy. A dozen people sat around a long table, some avoiding eye contact, others whispering. Marjorie stood at the head, clutching a stack of papers. "Thank you for coming," she began, voice thin. "We want to apologize for the incident this morning. Our security acted inappropriately, and we're instituting new protocols immediately." Her words sounded rehearsed. "An apology is a start," I said, "but it doesn't erase what happened. Those guards threatened to detain me. They violated my rights." A board member spoke quickly. "We'll retrain the guards. We'll ensure they understand the limits of their authority." "Retraining is good," I replied, "but I want written policies and proof of training. I want the HOA to post clear signage about private security limits, and I expect a public apology posted to the community website." Murmurs filled the room. Marjorie's face flushed. "Of course." A younger board member hesitated. "There's also liability. If the guards had handcuffed someone, the HOA could face a lawsuit." Heads turned. Another board member cleared his throat. "Officer, we appreciate your service. Would you consider mediating a community meeting so residents understand proper procedures?" The offer presented an opportunity. "Yes," I said, "on one condition. The HOA funds a professional training session open to residents, and the guards must be reassigned until certified." They agreed. The meeting ended with a promise: policy revisions, new signage, training sessions, and a written apology. I left feeling cautiously satisfied. Yet the story didn't end there. 2 days later, the HOA posted their version online. It painted me as the aggressive party who refused to cooperate. Social media filled with comments, supportive, skeptical, hostile. My inbox filled. I demanded the post be corrected and taken down. They complied, but not before reputational ripples spread. A neighbor I'd once waved to crossed the street rather than meet my eye. A prospective tenant called to ask if they should still move in. That night I reflected on power, the thin line between authority and overreach, and how easily reputations fracture. I filed a formal complaint with the county and supplied documentation of the guards' conduct. It felt like a small victory, an official record. A reminder that accountability matters. Months later, the HOA had changed practices. The guards were reassigned, training was scheduled, and signage appeared. The neighborhood calmed. I still kept my badge visible when visiting the property, a reminder that respect often follows authority, but justice follows persistence. I felt vindicated but remained quietly on guard.